Hey, I'm Ted Santos. I'm with Straight Talk, and we are the talk show that's made for men by men. And ladies, we always like you to be part of our show. Generally, we talk about relationships, always from a man's perspective or social. We talk about social challenges in our society. And today, I want to talk to you about a social challenge. I want to hit on three things that you could say are imposed on men by women, and it's really inappropriate. So I want to talk about these three things and how they actually shape relationships, and the fact that women impose them on men in the long run, they end up backfiring on women. And the first one is this notion that women impose on little boys and men. And it's happened for so long that now even fathers impose it on their daughters and their sons. And that's the idea that men only want one thing. As boys, we're told that men only want one thing. We want sex. And if you keep telling someone anything long enough, eventually the lie becomes the truth, even though it was never true. I mean, just look at some facts from the past that they used to say the earth was the center of the universe and all the planets go around the earth. That was a lie. People believed it. They kept pushing it. They told people that that's the way it is. It was never a fact. Yet people believed it like it was a fact. So to tell boys and men that they only want one thing, then they start to believe it, just like they believed the earth was the center of the universe. So what you end up with are two huge dilemmas. One is boys and men grow up believing that's what it means to be a man, to only want one thing. And they think it's their job to only want sex from a woman and to not look for anything. Well, then that works against you women, because then men are only looking at you for sex, and then you complain about that. And you know what? Sure, we want sex, so what? I mean, what's wrong with a man wanting to have sex with a woman? What the hell what are you women even thinking about? You wanted to believe that that's all we wanted, now that's what you got. What are you complaining about? And if a man tells you he doesn't want to have sex with you, you walk away from him. I've asked countless women what they would do if their husband said, "Hey, I love you, I still want to be with you, I no longer want to have sex with you." And every woman of countless women, and not just women from the US, they all said they would divorce their husbands, except for one woman, and that one woman said she didn't like sex anyway, and she expected her marriage to become sexless anyway. And right now, 38% of marriages are sexless. So women actually want sex. I can't prove what I'm going to say. I think women want sex more than men. Our social constructs have tricked women into believing it's bad to express their sexual prowess. So they constrain it, and they actually trick men into believing that it's men who only want one thing when it's women who are using men for sex. Except men have bought into it because they've been told for so long as little boys that's what it means to be a man, and they've confused manhood with only wanting sex. And when they grow up and get into a relationship and find out that it takes more than sex to make the relationship work, even though I'm going to say sex is the number one and the most important thing, and once you tamper with sex, which is the most intimate thing people can do together, I mean, hell, you can even create life, you've ruined the relationship. Except it takes more than that. Even if it's great sex, if sex was all it took, you'd never have a divorce, or you'd have much fewer divorces. Because look at the people who get divorced and still continue to have sex with one another. But the other parts of the relationship, they never figured out. They were unqualified, incompetent. So if you tell little boys they only want one thing and they grow up thinking that that's what it means to be a man, they don't develop themselves in other ways because they believe just wanting sex is sufficient, because that's who they are and that's what men want. That's what it means to be a man. The flip side of that is if you tell little girls that that's all they want, the little girls will believe they're right, and they believe they understand boys and men. And so how does a girl prepare herself? She prepares herself by using sex as the carrot on a stick in front of the guy. If this is all you want and this is what you want, then you have to jump through hoops. Guy jumps through hoops, he gets the sex and finds out he needs more than that, or the sex wasn't that good. And he moves on, and now the woman feels used. Except you put it on a carrot on a stick. You put sex as the motivating force, as your bargaining chip, and you had nothing else. So once a woman believes sex is all that a man wants, she doesn't develop herself either. She believes all she has to do is bring her vagina, and she's educated and has a job. None of those things have anything to do with creating a great relationship. They're good, they're useful, they're better than not having them, except it's not enough to make sex work. And then when you think about it, as a man, I go out and I work hard. I trade my intellectual capital, my brain power, or my hands for manual labor, whether I'm driving a truck or I'm a farmer. Whatever I do, I'm using my hands and my mind, and I trade them for money. Now that money that I worked hard and I traded my expertise for, now the woman expects me to use my capital, which is one of my resources. I'm expected to spend it on her just to get a vagina, which she got for free. Any savvy businessman knows that's a bad deal. And even worse, it's a depreciating asset. The older a woman gets, the less valuable her vagina is. And if the vagina is connected to her uterus, which is to give children, what about women who can't have children or beyond childbearing age? That means no man should ever spend any resources on women who can't have children or don't want them. So it's not a wise economic decision to invest money in a vagina. So if women believe that's all a man wants, she set herself up for failure. So women, it ends up backfiring on you, believing that all a man wants is sex because that's all you're prepared for. And when he needs more, if he's going to, as women say, invest in you, and the only thing he invests in is a body and a vagina that depreciates over time, he's going to either ignore you or he's going to trade you in. He's going to amortize you over time, and once you're tapped out of your youth, he's going to trade you in for a younger woman. So my suggestion, ladies, is you get rid of this notion that men only want one thing, and you need to start preparing yourself for the other things that make a relationship work. Another thing, so that's one thing. Women believe men only want one thing. We only want sex. It's a trap that you set for yourself, ladies. So stop teaching your sons that. Stop teaching your daughters that. And all of you women who actually believe that, you need to unlearn that. You need to undo the trick that you were bamboozled with. The other thing is, and this is always funny, it actually becomes an escape for women who don't want to actually have a real conversation. Women will tell men, you've been hurt or you're in pain. That's a complete projection from a woman onto a man. So when men are saying, hey, these are things we want from you. These are things that are unacceptable and inappropriate. And these are the things that make a woman undesirable. When a woman hears that, we're not bashing you. We're telling you, just like your employer gives you an annual review, or if he's really smart, he's giving you a review in real time. Hey, this thing you did today is inappropriate, and you need to be retrained. When your boss does it at work, you have no problem with that. And you either shape up or they get rid of you. The same happens in a relationship. Now imagine when your boss says, hey, this behavior is inappropriate. Can't do this anymore. If you start telling your boss, well, someone must have hurt you or you're in pain, you won't last very long. So the same goes in relationships. When men say certain behavior is inappropriate, telling us we've been hurt or in pain, that's the way women look at relationships. And this connects to the first one. If you believe men only want one thing, and that's what you've set yourself up for, and that's all you're prepared for in a relationship, you're going to feel hurt. And you think just because the way you see relationships as being hurt, that's the way we're looking at it. That's you just projecting womanhood onto manhood and not acknowledging men for men. That's inappropriate. Don't tell us what we've been hurt about or we're in pain. When we tell you things are unacceptable, hear what we have to say. Don't start telling us about enlightened men who admit that they're hurt or in pain. One of the things you ladies don't realize is that we watched our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, our sisters, the lady next door. We watched them do things that were undesirable. We were boys, and we saw this behavior that was inappropriate. We didn't even have to be in a relationship. We watched it. We witnessed it for ourselves. Same thing if you tell us, well, your mother is a woman. So what? If she engaged in inappropriate behavior, then she needs to be corrected as well. The other thing you ladies don't consider is that a lot of us men have been that other guy to the married woman, or to the woman with a boyfriend, the guy she's living with. Some of the things that us men have seen you married women do, cheat on your husband, your boyfriend, we don't get hurt by that. We're just in the front seat. We're sitting in the front row watching inappropriate behavior. We get to see the nature of a woman. And as little boys, we're told how innocent women are. And then when we grow up and we're having sex with some married woman who's sneaking around and lying to her husband, that gives us a very different view. So when we say things are inappropriate, we've seen more than you can imagine. Women cheat. Who do you think they're cheating with? Why do you think we have such great insight into the behavior of what women do? We're sitting in the front row. And we're participating. We've watched our women in our family. So it has nothing to do with being hurt or in pain. Address and acknowledge the things we're saying. If we tell you something's not working, that's it. Acknowledge it and do something about it. If you don't want to do anything about it, tell us that too. Have the spine to say you're going to keep doing it. Because if you lie and say you'll not and we get rid of you, then you're going to act like you're hurt. And yes, some guys do get hurt. Some guys do have these deep, heartfelt feelings for a woman and she walks away. Or she's cheating with a guy like me and he finds out about it. And if he is, so what? Acknowledge that too. If he's hurt, it's because a woman was cheating with some guy or did some other inappropriate thing. And he's saying he doesn't want that behavior. What man wants his wife cheating? You're going to not acknowledge that and say, well, you're just hurt because your wife is cheating and you're just saying, that's ridiculous. If we're telling you what we want and we're telling you what we don't want, don't sit here and try to debate with us or try to deflect it and say, well, you're just hurt. No, inappropriate is inappropriate. So, the third thing is this notion that men have a feminine side. Feminists made that up, and they sold it to men. And a lot of men bought it. Now you have these guys who are metrosexuals and all these other names that just make no sense. Men, we don't have feminine sides. If a woman wants a feminine side in the relationship, she needs to bring it, not you. And if women spent more time understanding what it means to be feminine, their relationships would work. Instead, many women bought into that feminist notion that women can have a masculine side. So what happens when women try to express a masculine side and it doesn't work? They don't know how to do it. They fail at being masculine. And because they can't deliver on a masculine side, they now call masculinity toxic because they failed. They couldn't produce masculinity. Your biochemistry doesn't allow it. We are not equal. You do not have my biochemistry as a woman. And it's not just testosterone. I dated a woman who was really truly a bisexual. She had serious relationships with men and women. And she was telling me that she dated a woman, and at some point that woman decided she wanted to be a man. She claimed that she was a man trapped in a woman's body. So the woman I know dated this woman through that transition, and they were still dating. The woman I know said that this woman who now claimed to be a man never pulled off manhood or masculinity. She was insecure about it. She could never be masculine. She was always a woman trying to be a man. And the woman I know said that after some time, she said, if I'm going to be with a woman with a penis, I might as well be with a real man so I can get all the benefits of manhood and masculinity instead of being with a woman pretending. And she said even when they were out in public, like this woman pretending to be a man would, you could see the insecurity of not being a man, even around other men. And other guys may have thought she was a man and addressed her as one, but she just had all this head trash going on. She could never really pull off being a man. And I'm just taking the words of what the woman dating her said. So she said she preferred men. So now, because women completely failed at producing a masculine side, they call masculinity toxic. So now they want to try and level the playing field and try and make men less or not masculine at all so that now we can all be feminine. What is that, penis envy? I mean, come on, ladies. Leave the masculinity lane alone. You don't belong in it. Enjoy it, appreciate it. You do. You ladies don't even want to date the guys who act feminine. So if you want to say, well, what does femininity mean? If you've ever seen a man act feminine, you understand what that looks like. So spare me that trashy line of what is feminine. It's you. It's your biochemistry. It's It's what you don't have that I have and you will never have, even if they give you a pill for it. Appreciate masculinity. Do not tell your sons and your husbands and boyfriends and brothers that they need to get in touch with their feminine side. We don't have that. Let us enjoy our masculinity. Stay out of it. Be feminine. We enjoy when you're feminine. We appreciate that greatly. When you deny us that, well, then you're just a piece of ass. You know, a woman attempting to act masculine is a joke because there is no such thing as a masculine woman. Ladies, you can get down on all fours and bark like a dog, and I'll still know you're not a dog. You will never be a dog just because you're on all fours and barking. Just like you will never be a man, even if you get an operation. You'll be a woman pretending to be a man. And if you ladies are that tough and independent, you should be jumping to be in the front line of all battlefields. But you don't. Over a 20-year period, from 1996 until 2016, over 4,600 men died from enemy fire in the military. 4,600 men, or 4,800, I think. And only 46 women died in the same time period. You ladies don't want to be in the front line in the battlefield, just like you're not fighting to be the garbage man, or you're not fighting to do all these other dangerous jobs that men do that are so risky. Because we have the biochemistry to do that. You're not jumping out there, and you don't want to put in those hours. Just look at this pandemic and the men who are working tirelessly. Many of you ladies are quitting because you don't want to put in those 30 and 40 hours straight, working nonstop. Some of you are out there, but most of you don't want that. Men do it. And it's not toxic, because it's what you call toxic masculinity is what has built this nation and all the other nations around the world. We're the ones who are walking on those beams on the skyscrapers when they're building them. And even in the 20th century, in the year 2020, count how many women are walking across those beams. I went to high school with the guy who did that. His father did it, and his grandfather did. That's the masculinity that builds the roads and the cars you drive, even the tampons you use. Men create industries. But if you think masculinity is that toxic, and you can do better than us, stop asking to be for a seat at the table men built. And go create a company with only women. No men. And pay them all high salaries and show us how it's done. But until then, you're enjoying all the industries that men created. Not only do you have streets you drive on, the street lights were created by men. And you don't have to walk up stairs in a high rise because some man created an elevator. So ladies, you need to give up this notion that men only want one thing. You need to give up the notion that we're in pain when we hold you accountable. And you need to give up the notion that masculinity is toxic. Stop letting someone trick you out of your femininity. Stop letting someone trick you out of the enjoyment and pleasure you get from a man being masculine. We love being with you, ladies, but we're not going to give up being men, and we're not going to give up standing for principles. So either you're going to enjoy us as men on our terms of being a man, or you just get the hell out of our way. Because there are billions of women in the world. Fellas, I'd like to hear your comments. Ladies, you have a problem with what I've just said? I want to hear what your problem is. Subscribe to my channel. Like the video. If you dislike it, tell me why you dislike it. Share it. Because a lot of you men, especially young men, need to hear this message. And so do you young ladies. Until then, you can find me on Facebook. Not only do I have a talk show that comes on, I have a Facebook page called Straight Talk. And you can join in many conversations like this 24/7. Love to have you in there. Love to hear your thoughts. Join the conversation. Until then, I'll talk to you soon. Take care and goodbye.